Welcome back to RetroSupply, where we teach you color theory and gently bully you into leveling up your art. Today we're hitting you up with 10 more color theory tips, the sequel that nobody asked for but everybody needed. Because let's face it, some of you guys are out here coloring like you're mindlessly scribbling with a pack of Crayolas. If you're new here, go check out our first color theory video and play some catch up. Color theory is deep, chaotic, and slightly cursed, so buckle up. We're going for a ride. Tip 1. Color thumbnails. Do not dive into coloring without thumbnails. Color thumbnails are tiny versions of your piece where you try different palettes, vibes, and moods. They're low effort, high payoff, and a great little warm up for your hand before you dive into your final piece. Sometimes I'll do this early in the process and use my rough or my clean sketch, and sometimes I'll just copy my line art to a new canvas, shrink it down, and do them there. I think it depends on what moon cycle we're in. Look at that, I'm using my line art. Must be a full moon. Spend 10 minutes doing a few different color versions. Seriously, these things can be as messy as you want. Try coloring your piece with a warm palette, a cool palette, analogous colors, a triadic color harmony, or a complementary palette. You'll find the strongest palette before you waste 3 hours fully rendering something that looks like it came out of your grandma's closet. It's like trying on outfits in the dressing room instead of fully committing to that velvet jumpsuit. Trust the process. Tip 2. Start in Grayscale. So you did your thumbnails and have a solid idea where you want to take your colors. It's time to start throwing down some paint, right? Wrong, and you should feel dumb for assuming so. Here's the deal. Color is a big fat phony.
You're a big fat phony!
So start in Grayscale. Lock in your light and dark balance first. That's called value structure, and it's the skeleton of your entire color palette. You can easily check your values by throwing on an adjustment layer on top of everything to convert it to black and white. Does it look like everything's melting into each other? Then you've got some bad values, you bonehead. Try this. Walk a few steps back from your canvas and blur your eyes. Do all your shapes still read well? If they do, congrats. Your values aren't complete dog water. If they don't, adjust each of your colors manually while still using the black and white adjustment layer on top. Turn that layer off and you'll see that your colors will read a lot better. You know how movies still look amazing in black and white? That's because strong value equals a strong image. Once your grayscale composition is solid, then you add color. Your color should reflect your piece's values, not the other way around. It's like baking. Values are your cake and color is the frosting. If your cake sucks, don't blame the sprinkles. Tip 3. Neutral colors. Alright, picture this. You're making a killer illustration, you got some hot pinks, some electric blues, some lime greens. It's vibrant, it's wild, it's completely unreadable. Here's the problem. If everything's loud, then nothing is. The solution is neutrals. Think grays, browns, beiges, other desaturated colors. These are your support crew. They don't hog the spotlight. They let your bold colors actually sing. They're like the bread to your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Actually, that's a dope analogy. Roll with me on this one. Peanut butter and jelly both have distinct, bold flavors. If you slap them on like a Pop-Tart or something, it would be a sugar overload. The bread is a muted conduit that perfectly suits the PB&J. Here's how the sciencey part works. Neutral colors have lower saturation, meaning they carry less color energy. They act like negative space for your palette. Without them, your piece is just visually screaming into the void. For me, since I knew the background and the yellow accents in her suit would be highly saturated, I chose to keep the blue in her suit and her hair slightly less saturated. This illustration might look super colorful, but take a look at it compared to a version with the saturation cranked to the max. Pretty big difference. Use neutrals to build contrast. Learn to love your desaturated homies. Tip 4. Color moods. Let's talk about colors and emotions, because your palette choices are low-key killing the vibe. Colors trigger feelings. That's not artsy-fartsy woo-woo. That's just science.
That's not science.
It is, and just let it go!
Blue equals calm or sad, and red equals urgency or care. Yellow is joy, and purple, it's regal, mysterious, or straight up cosmic witch energy. So if I see your somber graveyard scene is all cotton candy pink and baby teal, I'm gonna ask you, are you good, bro? Here's a cheat. Ask yourself how your piece is supposed to feel. Sad, epic, dangerous, and then build a palette that matches the emotional tone. I wanted my piece to feel cosmic, inspiring, and slightly dangerous, so I chose to give her a blue bodysuit with yellow accents. The blue gives the character a strong, heroic vibe, and the yellow shows that she's still bubbly and good-natured. The warm colors of the planet's surface suggest she's in a foreign or hostile environment, and her true home lies in the vast bluish teal of space, or possibly the planet above. Yeah, pretty deep, right? I'm not just picking colors because my monkey brain says,
I like yellow.
It's all about matching vibe to intent. Color equals mood. Don't mismatch the soundtrack to the scene. Tip 5. Subvert expectations. Remember that last tip about color matching the mood? Yeah, forget that noise. Or at least challenge it. Sometimes the coolest thing you can do is go against every expectation. Say you're creating an illustration of a serial killer's dungeon. It doesn't always need to be bathed in blood red and dramatic shadows. What if it's painted in soft peach tones? What if there's a hand-painted rainbow on the wall? That is so much more cursed, and you know it. When color doesn't match the context, it creates discomfort. Discomfort equals tension, and tension equals interest. That's visual storytelling with a bite. So instead of always reaching for that angry red or sad blue, experiment with colors that send more mixed signals than your high school girlfriend. Confuse the viewer. Make them question everything. But remember, it's about intent. Sometimes the dungeon should be red. Sometimes the pastel wonderland vibe is the move. You don't have to rebel just for the sake of it, but you should always ask, what do I want my colors to say about the story? Balance is key. Meet expectations when it serves the piece, and break them when it says something deeper. Tip 6. Hue shifting. Okay, you dummies, are you ready for a pro move? Hue shifting means changing the hue as you change the value. Here's the gist of it. When you add shadows or highlights to a color, don't just adjust the brightness, shift the hue too. That means instead of shading orange with a darker orange, try shading it with a red or a purple. And then in your highlights, instead of just cranking up the lightness, shift the hue towards yellow, or peach, or whatever warm, sun-kissed nonsense feels right. You're bending color logic just enough to fake some realism. Hue shifting adds vibrancy, depth, complexity. It's what makes digital art feel alive. But why does this work? Because in real life, light and shadow aren't just black and white. Shadow absorbs ambient light, and light bounces around. Let's be real. A flat blue shaded with a darker blue looks like it was done in Microsoft Paint by a raccoon. But blue shifting into violet shadows and glowing into teal highlights? That's cinematic. Pure Kino. Once you see that hue shifting, you can't unsee it. Welcome to the upper tier, my friend. There's no going back now. Tip 7. Line art versus solid color. Let's get into some hot takes. Line art is powerful, but also, you guys are abusing it. Sometimes a solid color shape says more with less. For example, I want the outline of her helmet to read well against the background, so I'll keep the line art. But for subtle highlights in the glass or on her spacesuit, I'll stick to just pure color. If you're using line art on everything just because you can, congrats, your art now looks like one of those coloring books for emotionally repressed adults. Tip 8. Color washes. This tip is a banger, so listen up, kids. After you finish your piece, try putting one color wash over the whole thing. Mess with its opacity, blending modes, experiment. It's like throwing a filter on your photo. It ties everything together. It makes all your colors feel harmonious. It's basically like fake atmospheric lighting. A warm orange wash makes your piece feel like sunset. A cold blue wash? Boom, nighttime drama. And the brain buys it, because in real life, lighting affects everything. You've seen how a red neon sign in a small room makes everything look like a murder scene? Or how every movie set in Mexico has that orange filter on it? It's the same trick. Honestly, I use this as a last resort when my colors aren't vibing well all the time. One color wash can become the glue that ties your piece together. Tip 9. Colors as a focal point. Listen guys, colors, they're not just for vibes. They're like your laser pointer. They can tell the viewers where to look, what to care about, and to stop staring at that one weird rock in the corner. Yeah, I'm talking to you, you weird rock. So where do you want people to look? No, really, decide. Because if you don't choose a focal point, the viewer's eye will just wander around your piece like it's lost in Walmart and refusing to ask for help. In my piece, it was pretty obvious. The astronaut is the star, so I added those bright saturated yellow elements to her suit. I also added those bright, almost white highlights to really make it pop. Whatever your focal point is, make it the highest contrast point. Color isn't just pretty, it's a tactile weapon. Use it with intent, or prepare to watch your viewers emotionally bond with that weird rock in the corner. What is that rock feel? Tip 10. Don't stress. Here's your final tip, and I mean this, guys. Don't freak out. Color theory is half science, half intuition, and half dark sorcery. Yeah, that's 3 halves, shut up. You're allowed to make ugly art. You're allowed to try a color scheme that doesn't work. That's how you get better. You'll find your taste over time. So breathe. And maybe stop zooming in 800% and focusing on that one shade of orange. You got this. Alright guys, lecture's over, I'm done yapping, for now. Now let's put this chaos into practice. But before we roll the time-lapse, help your boy out and bless the algorithm gods. Hit up that like button, subscribe, and tell me which tip was your favorite. And if you actually want to use the tools I'm using, check out RetroSupply.co. They've got everything from vintage halftones to brushes that don't suck. I'm using halftones from the Color Lab bundle today. I love this thing, guys. The link's in the description. Alright, let's get to the time-lapse. Boom. 10 more color theory tips in the bag, and a pretty dope astronaut illustration to boot. Pretty cool, right? If this video called you out, good. If it helped you, even better. If you're still confused, well, that's color theory, baby. Hit like, subscribe, and if you actually want to implement this stuff, check out RetroSupply's brush bundles, halftone kits, and paper textures. Alright, you little art babies, go play with your Crayolas. Make something weird. Happy creating.